You will see protein products everywhere now when you go out for your food shop. But why? Why is it important? What impact does it have? And how does it work? Why is it one of our big fundamentals? It has an impact on our metabolism, which I'll explain. It also has an impact on our short-term and long-term physical health, as well as how we feel and that tone and shape of our body. So really important to understand about how the macronutrients, carbs, protein and fats all impact our body. I want you to relate this to your car sitting on your drive. Carbohydrates are like the petrol that you put in your car. You need to keep an eye on them constantly and make sure that you're fueling your car to expect it to run exactly like us. We need to keep putting carbs into our body to give it energy, to give it fuel to run. Fats are like the engine oil. We don't really need to monitor it as long as we're looking after our car generally. They will take care of themselves. So as long as we've got a decent diet, our fats will generally take care of themselves, and they're there just to keep the car ticking over, to keep it running smoothly, and we don't need to think about them too much. Protein are the mechanics. They turn up at night to repair our car and to look after our car. For us, it's our job during the day to fuel our body with the protein, to get those sources of protein into our body, the right amount, which I'll come on to ensure that while we sleep, unfortunately the mechanic only turns up while we sleep, the mechanic turns up and he has the right tools to do his job. His job is to repair our body, to look after it, to improve it, and to help us be in top form the next morning when we wake up to go again, and we start to fuel our body again with those carbs for energy, fats to keep us ticking over, and protein so the mechanic can repair our body and help us wake up better the next morning than we did the previous morning. In terms of our metabolism, it's really important to understand that our metabolism it's every chemical reaction that happens within our body to provide us with energy. Energy to keep the lights on all the way through to exercise and your brain functioning and everything in between. Our brain and our body want us to have a super efficient metabolism, a metabolism that requires very little energy to run, very few calories to run. This puts us in a situation where it's easy to overconsume in this modern world that we live in. As a result, it's easy to gain weight, easy to gain fat, and not be in a positive place physically or mentally. We want to have a super inefficient metabolism, a metabolism that requires a lot of energy to run, and as a result makes it harder to overconsume food, overconsume calories, and as a result harder to gain weight and easier to maintain our weight and shape. The way we do this is by moving and increasing our muscle mass on our body. The crucial part to increasing our muscle mass is 1, a stimulus, resistance training, and 2, the fuel, the mechanics to come along and repair our body and grow new muscles. So that's why protein is such a big deal. If we can look after our metabolism and boost that, it makes it easier to drop fat and then sustain that progress in the future. If we think long term as well, in terms of all-cause mortality, there is real science that shows that the more muscle you have in your body, the more likely you are to recover from falls, to recover from illness, to fight off illnesses. So that's long term. And then finally, the more muscle we have, the more tone, the more definition we have, which helps us feel good and feel better about ourselves. So when we're in a calorie deficit and we're looking to lose weight, we're now in what's called a catabolic environment, an environment where our body's breaking down fat and muscle for energy. We want our body to break down that fat. That's great. That's why we're in a calorie deficit. We want to lose fat, but we want to maintain muscle. So the way that we maintain that muscle and ensure that the greatest percentage possible of breakdown comes from fat rather than muscle is by then creating some anabolic stimulus. So a stimulus that supports muscle, supports a growth environment. And there's 2 things that we can do for that. That's resistance-based training, which I'll talk to you about in another video, and that's protein intake and ensuring that our protein intake is in the right place. I will come on to exactly what that number is. But if we can ensure that we're working against resistance with our exercise, plus having the right intake of protein, while in that catabolic environment, so while in a calorie deficit, we're increasing and giving our body the best opportunity to decrease our body fat percentage while maintaining our muscle, which helps to show definition and helps our short-term and long-term health by boosting our metabolism and also by encouraging us with recovery and health in the long term by having that extra muscle. This is why, for example, if you ever see sort of bodybuilders, they seem to be able to eat what they want. They can eat ridiculous amounts of food because they have so much muscle. Their metabolic rate is so high to be able to maintain that muscle every single day, which gives them a hell of a lot of wiggle room, which means they can eat more fun foods without the danger of gaining weight. Now, if you don't lose weight in this way, if we go on to crash diets, if we look to lose weight quickly and we don't look after our protein, then I'm sure you've heard the term of skinny fat. This is where we're now in a catabolic environment. We're losing weight, our body's breaking down fat and muscle for energy, but because it costs our body energy to maintain that muscle, it goes and takes the muscle first. So yes, we lose weight, great. But the weight that we're losing is predominantly coming from muscle because we're not keeping our protein high, we're not doing resistance-based training, and as a result, the tone, the shape, the definition in the short term goes down while we lose weight, but also in the long term, we lose that metabolic rate that we used to have, which makes it harder to sustain this new weight that we are now, and also we don't get the benefits in terms of health and how we feel and that tone and definition that comes through. There's other benefits to protein as well. It's the most satiating food. That means that it makes us feel the fullest for longest out of carbs and fats. You know this because if you have a steak, you wouldn't go and eat 3 chicken breasts, for example, or 3 steaks, but you could easily go and have, I could easily go and have 3 ice creams. So the protein helps us feel fuller and keeps us fuller for longer, which is really important in a deficit, because while we're in a deficit, we're bound to be hungry. We're bound to have those hunger stages. So having that protein to slow down digestion and make us less likely to feel hungry, make it easier to stick to what we're trying to do and to help us achieve what we want to achieve. There's also something called the thermic effect of food, which basically means that we burn calories digesting our food. When we digest 100 calories of protein, we actually burn 25 of those calories to digest it. When we digest 100 calories of carbs, we actually burn 7 calories to digest it. And when we digest 100 calories of fat, we burn 2 calories to digest it. This doesn't mean that protein is a free food and you can eat as much of it as you want and you won't go over your calories and gain weight if you eat excessive amounts of protein. But it does mean that there's a lot more wiggle room because you're going to burn a quarter of it in digesting it before it gets stored away if you're in a calorie surplus. Finally, how much protein? We want 1.6, the science shows 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So if you weigh 100 kilos, you need to have 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per day. We need to do that consistently, but you can then use your other calories however you like. Whatever percentage of carbs or fats, you can eat your food from whatever source, however you want to, as long as we hit that protein target. The science shows that as long as protein is consistent and when calories are equal, it doesn't matter where the rest of our food comes from, as long as we hit that protein target and we hit the calorie target. And that is why now we have a calorie target to hit and a protein to hit, and then you can eat however you like to fill your the rest of your calories with carbs and fats. You know the deal. Drop me a message. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think of this one, what you're going to take away from it, something you've learned or something that has opened your eyes or something that's reminded you about why protein is so important. I'll see you on the next one.